Welcome to the Society Pod, a podcast for entrepreneurs, marketers, and leaders. Here's your host, Jessica Yarmy.
All right. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Society Pod. I am super excited to welcome my guest to the show today. She is a connection of mine that I connected to on LinkedIn, because you guys know I love that LinkedIn. And in fact, I think LinkedIn should sponsor this episode because we went from LinkedIn friends to let's meet for drinks to we're going to start the Women's Franchise Network Dallas chapter within just a short amount of time of knowing each other, all started on the LinkedIn platform. So my guest today, she is a franchising extraordinaire. She has spent most of her career in franchising in brands that you know, in restaurant chains that you know, like Dickey's Barbecue and now Chicken Salad Chick, which is growing super fast, which we're going to be diving into. So welcome to the show, Larissa Palatiere.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for having me. I appreciate it. And yes, you hit it head on with LinkedIn, how we immediately went into action.
Well, so many people make fun of me for posting as much as I do, but I said, when you do show up authentically as you find your people. And I really just feel like from day one, we were like, we are people, we're going to do something together. And so today we're going to podcast together. So I gave kind of a rough, bad bio for you, but why don't you elaborate on your bio, give us a little bit more background on you, fill in some of the blanks.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I think you did an amazing job. You hit all the highlights. So I have been in the franchising industry now close to 8 years. So 6 with Chicken Salad Chick. It'll be in July. And then roughly 2.5 years before that with Dickey's Barbecue Pit. So that was my first introduction into franchising, and it was a fast and steep learning curve. It was very much like, here is an FDD. Learn what this document is. Good luck. And from there, I really fell in love with every aspect of helping people become small business owners themselves. And it's a very fulfilling industry to be in, as you know.
Did you intentionally get involved in franchising, or did you just see the opportunity at Dickey's Barbecue Pit and just say okay, that sounds like something I'd be into?
I've always been in business development myself, and I actually was working for a boutique recruitment firm in Dallas, and I had opened up the hospitality chapter for her and signed Raising Cane's, which their corporate office is here in Plano, amongst many franchisors. And we were doing some local store marketing hires for them. And I reached out to Dickey's Barbecue Pit to see if they had any hiring needs that we could help out with. And, in playful conversation, basically, they had asked for me to come in and interview with them for franchise development role. And, I always share this story with people because I want them to know that growing up, my parents were very blue collar. We did not grow up in franchising, did not know anything about small business. And so it was, like I had said, a very fast learning curve on what franchising was as a whole and what is a franchise disclosure document. And I mean, anything and everything around it. I'm so glad I took that leap of faith that I did with Dickey's. I'm very grateful to the company to learn everything that I did, all of the resources that they had, which is fantastic. And they were at 500 locations plus and growing. And while I was with them, I was able to handle quite a bit of the domestic development. And then right before I left, I had signed on an international deal for them, which was a big deal for the company because it was one of the first international deals. And so once I completed that chapter, I was like, I'm done. And then being able to essentially get recruited to work for Chicken Salad Chick. Again, best decision I've made today in my career is to work for them. Love.
Yeah, you've stayed in the restaurant niche, which I love. For those people who are listening who are not familiar with franchising, what is franchise development?
So franchisors will hire somebody to come in and essentially help make sure that they're growing their company with small business owners, somebody who wants to invest in their organization and become a franchisee. And so my role with the company is to work with any potential franchise partner and guide them through a franchising process. I think every great franchisor has a very detailed franchising process is how their franchise partners move through. And so my job is to make sure that I really know that it's going to be a good fit for both parties ultimately.
Are you ready to level up your business? If you're under promoting your business, you're underachieving in your business. Start driving real demand today. Make it sizzle.
You know franchising inside and out, and I love that about your background. Like you know all parts of the business. Do you feel like the franchise development role really needs that understanding of franchising top to bottom?
I think out of all of the roles in franchising, being on the franchise development side is really tough in many ways. It's rewarding with everything that we're doing, but you have to know every aspect of each department. You've got to know operations, you have to know marketing, you have to know real estate, you have to know construction. I mean, you're getting drilled with questions left and right, and what ways, you want to show support to your potential franchise partner, but you also have to make sure that you lay out expectations. Clearly have those expectations lined out so they know exactly what they're walking into and what you're looking for as well as a franchise partner. So I do feel like every aspect of the business you truly need to know.
Yeah, I agree, and you obviously do a great job with that. So you know franchising inside and out. You had the Dickies role in franchising, and then you decided to stay in franchising, kind of double down in the franchising world with Chicken Salad Chick. So you clearly love this space. So what do you love most about the franchising world?
I think for me, so I decided to stay. I was with Dickies before in the restaurant space and specifically in the fast casual segment. And I had seen while I was with Dickies and as I was exploring other options, and there are a lot of great companies out there, I was exploring options outside of the restaurant space for a short minute in between Dickies and Chicken Salad Chick. But what really led me back to staying in this space is that, especially in the restaurant space, in the fast casual segment, there's a future and a need for it. I don't see it ever going away. Like, there's so many aspects of casual dining that have changed, so many aspects of fast food. But to me, within the QSR world, fast casual truly, I'm a firm believer that that is the future of our dining needs. And I love that you can get into, especially Chicken Salad Chick, the simplicity behind what we're doing. You get in, you master that first location, and it's extremely easy to replicate and scale to 2, 3, 4, just however many multiples you're looking for. So there's something really special about doing that and signing franchise partners on that have worked in corporate America their whole life and they want to do something different. They've always wanted a small business for themselves. And I feel like this is a great brand and just this industry leverages you to be able to do that and grow.
I always like to think that it splits the difference between like diving into entrepreneurship full time and kind of having like your toe in entrepreneurship. It's like a baby step into entrepreneurship because you have that support network every step of the way.
And to me, I feel like hands down, you can tell. And as you know, it's a big world, it's a small world in franchising. And so you get to know other franchisors, you get to know organizations, and the support for me makes that's a make or break. That should be the number one thing that a franchisee is investigating top to bottom with any franchise organization that they're involved in. And I think we do a fantastic job at that. So it's easy. It's easy for me.
Generally, what opportunities do you see in franchising as a whole? Not necessarily with Chicken Salad Chick, but just the business model. What do we as a collective need to be doing better?
I think especially after attending a recently IFA conference, I think really trying to make sure that we stay ahead with AI and really find ways to integrate that in our systems and using that for our consumers, using that and how we're looking for prospective franchise partners and how we're looking at spaces, just in all aspects of the business. I really think that that's something that every franchisor should have a main focus on moving forward, because that's going to be a fast and swift kick. There's so many companies that are utilizing it today, so many that are also very far behind. So I think if there's room for opportunity, that would definitely be it.
Yeah, it's obviously a hot topic in marketing, and that's my background. And I think marketing is a baby step into AI, as you're talking about like site selection and things like that. There's so many different ways that it could come to life. And I'm glad that they made it such a hot topic at IFA.
I see different ways that it can be used in all aspects, but absolutely, I think if anything, that is one thing that in the franchising industry as a whole that we should definitely stay on top of for sure.
So you've been in big brand and you've been in medium-sized brand. As you look at the franchising world, what do you think small brands need to implement to kind of prepare themselves for the fast growth that they're trying to achieve via franchising?
So when I worked at Dickies, I was there and they had about 500 units at the time, and that was was signed for the international deal. And when I came to Chicken Salad Chick, we had less than 100 units. So they very much were in a growth phase. They were out of the emerging franchisor phase, but in the growth phase, ramping up. And it was an exciting time to be a part of the brand. And I think any franchisor that is looking for that type of growth and scale needs to really make sure that they are not growing too quickly, too fast. I know that it's fun to chase these development deals and sell whole states and whole regions. And, I mean, that there's an easy, quick way to do that, but there can be a lot of headaches if you get in with the wrong partner. And so I think it's very imperative for smaller organizations to really focus on culture. If that's truly something that you want to push, is to make sure that you are culturally aligned with your franchise owners from the very beginning, at those beginning stages as you're growing. So I think that is the best advice I can give to franchisors that are looking at scaling to a larger size.
And you already talked about support. And so then as your unit volume is growing, your support needs to grow in parallel. And I think sometimes it's hard to staff through those growing phases because you don't want to overstaff too quickly, but you also simultaneously don't want to understaff. And I think that's where a lot of brands get stuck, is like they know they need that culture and that consistency. They know that's going to come through a support team that understands the culture and the consistency. But then all of that needs to come to life in a very orchestrated, strategic kind of way.
Yeah. And I think if franchisors, as a part of their culture, if they really embrace transparency and they're able to relay that to their potential partners coming on board to say, listen, we are not at 2,000 units. We're not at 5,000 units. You're not going to get a quick turnaround with this. We don't have all kinds of marketing dollars like this brand, but you coming in, this is what you are going to receive. And this is what we are going to do for you. And really laying out, to me, again, those expectations from the beginning. I think that can be a really great partnership, and really help the franchisors as they continue to grow.
So let's talk specifically about Chicken Salad Chick. So how many locations do you have open right now? And then how many do you have sold, not open?
So we have currently to date 259 locations open, and we are in 18 states, which is exciting. We're going to open up in New Mexico later this year, which would round out our 19th state. And we are continuing to grow on that end. What was the second question? The amount of
Sold, not opens. I just want to give you props for the work you've been doing on the development side. How many locations have you sold, Larissa?
Geez. We have a great team in place, I will say. So this isn't just a Larissa thing. So I've been with the company for 6 years. I had a counterpart before who did an amazing job. We actually used to split up our territory. And then Julie Gerald, who I work with as well, we both split up basically all of our states. And I think we've done a fantastic job with our growth as a company. So yeah, thank you. You're so sweet.
Humble answer. I get it. Okay, so if I am a franchise owner prospect and I ask you what makes Chicken Salad Chick special, how do you answer that question?
What I'm going to go back to is the fact that we're uniquely positioned. What I love about Chicken Salad Chick is nobody else is in our lane right now, which is fabulous. So we are a Southern style, chicken salad product. And I think that there's something really special about being uniquely positioned, having a delicious product. So that's hands down easy enough. And then on top of that, having a great guest experience. And those three things, that triple threat, has really carried us very well. I say that I try to stay humble in the way that I love to brag about our brand, but I think that carries so much weight in today's day and age.
I know something else that's unique and special about your brand is kind of like the thing that we are also united by is just like women in franchising. So give me the breakdown of how many female franchise owners you have and what that mix looks like for your brand.
I think our brand does an amazing job at attracting a strong female presence. We're a very female centric brand just in general, as far as we call our consumers our guests. But as far as our franchise base, 75% of our franchise base is a female led franchisee. So we have some amazing franchise partners. Like I could almost cry thinking about how amazing they are. Seriously. I mean, they're strong women. They're out in their community. They're movers and shakers. I mean, they love the brand. And that makes a huge difference as we're growing our franchise family.
And for context, the statistic on average is typically 30% of franchises are owned by women. And I think that's a blended number with license agreements that might be smaller agreements. So the fact that you have over 70% like speaks volumes. Where do you think the 30% comes from? Why is it so low across the board in franchising?
In the franchising world, I think we just have not, I don't know if there's been enough exposure to women to really feel led to brands that resonate with them. Right. And I think as the world is continuing to change, we have more fast casual concepts and restaurant spaces that make sense that they resonate with, and gym lines that they resonate with, fitness centers that they resonate with. So what does that day-to-day look like, and what kind of work-life balance can they find? Because as you and I both know, both mamas, both in the franchising space, I mean, it's your full-time mom, your full-time, working. I mean, I think really trying to find that work-life balance has become more realistic with franchise owners today than ever. And again, I think laying out that transparency really helps. I really think it's just, I hope it's going to continue to change. I hope that we start seeing that number increase over time, 40, 50%. I'll be happy if 100% of franchisees are women.
Yeah.
Selfishly.
It, it just seems like such a match made in heaven in terms of a franchise model that really leans on a people business, collaboration, culture, a lot of the things that maybe traditionally like women excel at more. And then to your point, just having the ability to make good dollars through a franchise, but then also control your calendar. You get the best of both worlds. You have the earning potential of a 9 to 5, but then you have the control of life as an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
I see it as such an opportunity for women to step into a franchising kind of business model. And it's one of the things that inspires me to do things like this podcast and just keep on talking about it, because I think representation matters. I think education matters. And oftentimes those pieces are missing, specifically on the women in business side of things. And I know that's a gap that you're looking to fill through the WFN. So talk to me about the WFN and what you're doing there.
Okay. Well, you're wrangled into this as well, so I will go ahead and just put that out there. So, how it started for me was I was at IFA probably 3 years ago at this point, and I was inquiring about the Women's Franchise Network. I'd seen that the WFN Atlanta, they do a fantastic job, and I was inquiring about the Dallas chapter, and Megan Center, I remember she reached out to me and she said, listen, you should start it. You should start the chapter back up. And I think you should do it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was just asking to see, like, are there meetings? What's going on? I was inquiring about it. And she's like, no, we do need a presence in Dallas. And I really appreciate, Megan pushing me to get out of my comfort zone with it, because I knew that there was a lack of camaraderie, of community within the Dallas network. So anyways, around that same time, you and I connected. And I remember we went and had lunch, and I was saying to myself, like, I love Jess. Like, she gets it. She's in the industry. She knows I think she's brilliant. So I will say that. And to me, you're a mover and shaker. You're going to be able to get things done. And so around the same time that I was approached with the WFN Dallas chapter, you were one of the first people that I immediately thought of because we need to come together. I think, especially being in the Dallas area, you have a lot of franchisors, you have a lot of vendors that are here as well, people who are contracting consultants, you name it, that touch the franchising space. I wanted to be able to form a community here to share resources, best practices. I mean, to be able to have that and stay connected. And so I really think that we have created something really special with WFN DFW. I think that we've done a great job with that.
I think the first few events have just been so eye-opening in terms of the turnout and the engagement and the conversations and the questions that are happening, because there's high level conversations happening at these events. And I think that it might be one of the results of being in Dallas with a ton of franchised brands and just a ton of women who are working in this space without the network of franchising professionals. There's resources being shared, there's knowledge being shared, there's connections that are kind of continuing online on LinkedIn. It's just been a great networking group to be a part of because it's such a niche to be in franchising. So whether it's, on the fitness side where, I'm coming in, or we have a lot of restaurant, even with the, Pizza Hut people and all the people that are
Yeah.
on your side of the world, like there's so many groups here that we need to be better connected and better aligned, just to, I think, support each other professionally, but then also just trade best practices in franchising and position Dallas to be a franchising hub, because I think the Atlanta chapter is strong as the WFN. By count, I would think Dallas has more franchised brands as a home base than Atlanta does. So we should be better united together, even as a local, IFA kind of chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what you were saying from the networking piece of it, to me, I don't know how many times, even people, we've had attendees who were not even in franchising, but were thinking about getting into franchising. And to me, I feel like it's extremely powerful to be able to have that presence and say, listen, I work specifically for Chicken Salad Chick, but if you need any help at all whatsoever, let me know, because we are all in this together. We all want to truly help each other out in our roles. And there's something special about our community and what we put together. Can we give a shout out to, January Swardarski and Caroline Stevens, because I think of like our, original co-chairs that came together for DFW, WFN when there was absolutely nothing. We were laying with like groundwork foundation. They've done a great job, and Yolanda Stevenson as well. So just we've got such a strong group of women that really want to see this group be successful.
As a woman who's been in franchising for years now, how do you see it? Like, do you feel like hamstrung in this space? Do you feel like you're superpowered in this space? Like, how do you feel like you show up as a woman in franchising?
I think for me, especially being a double minority, I will say that. So being Hispanic, being a female, when I first started and when I would attend these conferences, and I think we shared the same experience as well, but showing up to conferences and being in the space, it's predominantly male dominated. I mean, as many females as I see getting in, it almost still seems like I see double, triple the amount of males at these conferences. And so for me, I think to be able to band together and have that presence is important. But me myself personally, I love to show up and say, listen, I am here to help in any which way necessary. Being able to provide not just from the woman's perspective, but also to connect with some of the, diversity chapters that we have as well within IFA, I think is really important to make sure that you're leaning on as well. Any which way I possibly can. I'm here. I'm like, how can I help? What can I do?
Yeah. I feel like it's such an example of representation matters, and you have this obligation, especially being the double minority, to show up and to be loud. As you know, when I was working on Kick House, I had 40% female owners and I had 10% Black owners as well. And I think some of that minority interest came from seeing other owners in the system and feeling that like I'm able to relate to that person. And I'm not just communicating with Jessica, but I'm communicating with all of these other owners also. I think you've done a great job, obviously, of being a woman in franchising and taking on that responsibility, and being a Hispanic woman in franchising and taking on that responsibility to show up, to be, not just co-chair of the WFN, but you're also going to be at IFA and be present and be, a leader in the space, and just show others what it could look like for them.
And I think as well as being able to pay it forward in a sense, I think of when I was first attending these conferences, I really felt like a fish out of water, even though it's a big world. It's very much a small incestual world, should I say, in franchising. You could tell that there were cliques that were kind of formed already, and they knew so-and-so that used to work at a company together. And it was all new to me. And so I remember having those early relationships. I think of Erica Garza, who was one of the first females that I had reached out to outside of, this is before WFN, and reached out to her by LinkedIn, similar to how we met as well. And she really helped grab my hand and said, listen, I'm going to introduce you to everybody that I know. And I want you to get involved in this. And I want, and really having somebody who works as a mentor for you, I think is extremely powerful, because not only do you need that representation, but help guide that way for me as well. And I really think about, I'm very thankful to what Erica was able to do and open my eyes to in this industry, because there's so many people that want to help you. It's just a matter of you putting yourself out there, truly.
I couldn't agree with that more. And I met Erica at our very first WFN event. And really day one, she was a ally of mine. Like, she was, offering her assistance. And I think she's just an amazing example of like a trailblazer in the franchising space. And it is that element of pay it forward. And I think a lot of people talk about paying it forward, and then you meet someone like Erica who really walks that walk. And we need more people like her and you in the franchising space. I think that's the only way that we're going to move that 30% to a 50%, to a 60%, and showcase the power of the franchising business model, especially for working women.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to switch gears, I would say a little bit, but we're going to switch gears a lot. And we're going to kind of dive into some things that we talk about traditionally on this podcast, like comeback season. So tell me about a time when you were not in your epic girl boss moment as you are right now, but like you were on a low, you were in a soul searching time, career wise or personal wise. And how did you navigate yourself out of that?
It's at the very beginning stage of franchising for me. And it was actually when I was interviewing at Dickies. So, I'd had conversations before over the phone with their VP of HR at the time. And he's like, no, you need to come in for an interview. And what he didn't know was I was actually 7 months pregnant when I was chatting with him. And I'm like, no. I think maybe in a couple months, maybe I'll be open to coming to interview with you. Not now, in a couple months. And he's like, no, we really need you to come in now. And so I did. I showed up. I was slightly embarrassed at first, and I had a great interview. I had a great interview with my boss, who I was reporting to, and they hired me. And I remember thinking, like, I am starting this role, and I'm at 8 months pregnant, at the time, 7.5, 8 months pregnant. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I had started my very first day with 6 other men. Okay. 6 other men. And all of them were like, we're going to do this. And we came from this brand and la-di-la-di-la. And I did not know anything about franchising. I'm like, what am I doing? What did I sign up for? I'm like frantically reviewing this franchise disclosure document. And it was a low point for me, because becoming a mom first time, not knowing what I didn't know, not knowing what I knew in my role. I just knew that I was ambitious and I was driven and I could do it. Like, give it to me and I can do it. And I really think that in that moment, I was able to prove to myself that, listen, you can do this. Like, you can get this. You can do this. You're helping, people become small business owners. This is a rewarding place. You want this. And so for me, as soon as I learned the material and I came in, I kicked butt. Right before I was able to give birth, I had signed, I think, a couple of deals. For me, it was like like I made it, like I made it in that sense. I can do this. And so to me, it was such a impactful moment in my journey in franchising to say, you're worth it and you can do this. And, I was able to give birth to my beautiful son. And then I went right back to it. I mean, I was like, I'm determined to show these six men and everybody else that, this mama can dance backwards. I can do it. I can close deals. I can do what I need to for the company. And I was very proud of myself with that comeback. That was fabulous.
And how do you juggle being a working mom now?
How do you juggle, Jess? Because some days I ask myself that, like, doing the right thing. What I've learned is there's not really a balance. I mean, I want to be. I'm extremely transparent when it comes to this because I don't want to sugarcoat anything for anybody who might be a first time mom that's listening to this or somebody who's trying to juggle it on their end. Um, I always say, listen, you have a mom bucket and you have your work bucket. And if I'm doing really well at work and my work bucket's full, I feel like I'm not doing enough as a mom. And every mom that I've chatted with, they resonate with that because it's that internal guilt that you have. But for me, at the end of the day, my son recognizes that mama is a hard worker and she is going to show up. And when I'm there for him, I'm like, okay, work is off. I'm putting my laptop up. I'm going to stop checking emails. Like my main focus is on you. So I've just tried to be more intentional with my time and my presence with my son and really make sure that I can stop and turn it off. And that can be difficult to do for me.
How old is he now?
He's 7. 7, my
Um,
hunter.
so mine is 13 and he's on spring break.
He was older. That's what I thought. Yeah, he was older than Hunter.
He's on spring break right now, and if the audio is true, you'll be able to hear him screaming at his computer in the background during certain moments because that's how he rolls. He also is aware of not just like the marketing stuff that I'm doing, and he helps me on the video side, but he also understands a franchising business model. And his favorite
Yes.
pizza place is I Fratelli. And if you ask him, like, what franchise would you open up if you could open up any franchise? He won't say a franchise of mine. He will say he wants to open an I Fratelli franchise. So you just have to be careful as they grow because they'll learn and then they'll do the opposite of what you teach them to do.
That's right. Well, hey, I don't blame him. They've got some amazing pizza. So
It's amazing. So what is next
well,
on your
so
horizon? Yes.
if you don't mind, like, how do you balance it? I am curious. What do you find with work life and mom life? How do you balance it on your end?
Well, I've gone through phases. There's been phases where I haven't had balance. Like it's been 100%. I am in work world and
Yeah.
I'm 100% there. And then I have to like draw a line and then I'm 100% in mom world, and I now that he's older, now that he's 13, and he does understand and participate in my businesses, it's a little bit easier to find that like air quotes balance because I don't have to 100% be over here in work or 100% with him. There are these blended moments, and the blended moments to me are fun because
Yeah.
he's gone to IFA, he's gone to URSA, which is like a conference in the fitness space, and he knows to hand out first class free flyers. Like he knows to approach people and like
That's
and
awesome.
and push it to them. Not like, do you want a first class free? But he's like, here, take a first class. It's free. Like so he's done those things and those moments have been fun because to your point, you never feel totally fulfilled in either bucket, but when you're in those moments where you're kind of doing both buckets, it's the closest you can get to like, look, I'm doing a mom thing right now and I'm also doing a business thing.
Yeah.
And
It's
now
quantum
as
memory. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so now as I'm doing this marketing agency thing on the side of a fitness thing, he's in the marketing thing with me, building things and editing things, and it's been fun to be his technically his first job was working for me at my marketing agency.
It's awesome.
And it's possible that if I build it well enough and stable enough and long term enough that one day it's his, which would just be
Love
a whole
that.
different like mind craziness.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will, train Hunter in franchise development. I'll send him over to your house. You'll switch your set over here. We'll make sure that they fully understand franchising top to
Yeah.
bottom. That's awesome. I'm glad that you're able to do that. Hunter can recognize different, franchisors as we'll play a game of like, is that a franchisor? And that's fun as we're driving down the road and he's looking at McDonald's, is he looking at Chick-fil-A, and you name it. But that's fun. So I'm glad you're able to do that. It's never 100%. I mean, for me, it's like I never feel fulfilled one way or another. So it's still something I'm trying to learn.
There's no one right way to do it. Each solve is going to be different for everybody. I always hesitate to share some of my details with people because the way that I do it is totally
Yeah.
unrealistic for most people. I have a ex-husband who's super involved and super supportive, and he carries a majority of the parenting weight because he's just an awesome parent. And so, where I say, like, okay, I live in Dallas, but I commute out to California to work at Club Pilates from Monday through Thursday, and then I come back and I be a parent. Most people cannot get away with that. And so it's hard to share those details sometimes because it is the reality of like how I do what I do, but it's also not a reality that most people can get to. And then you just start to feel more guilt and shame about your own setup. And I think the idea is just to not feel guilty at all. Like we are all just out here doing the best that we can. And how it is today for you might be different than how it is tomorrow for you. Like your situation's going to change, like things are going to evolve, and you just do the best you can with it. And on a given day, as long as you could say like, yeah, I played the hand as best as I could today. It never feels it never feels totally, complete and balanced, but I think, in that look back kind of moment, and I'm getting to a place where I have a little bit of a look back because of just that he's older. He remembers them in a positive light, whereas I remember the sacrifice, and I
Yeah,
remember
like the stress that yes,
yeah.
everything you're under. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember jumping on a plane and leaving. I left for 3 years. I left, and he doesn't remember that. He remembers that I came back. He remembers that we did cool stuff together. I think at the end of kids are so resilient, and they are little sponges of attention when you have attention to give them. And again, you just find the best balance for you. It's so hard to to be a working mom, but you just do the best you can with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And more than anything, I can confidently say that our boys will know work ethic 100%. I mean, let's
Yeah.
just put that out there. I mean, you're always constantly moving and going. And I'm like, what are you into? What are you doing? What are you creating? So I know
Yep.
that your son sees that, and I
Yeah.
think you're doing a good job.
And you know what he doesn't see? He doesn't see me cooking because that's the sacrifice, right? Like, so you and I are part of WFN, and we go to these events weeknights. And if he's with me, it's like, okay, you're gonna stay home, you're gonna play on your computer. I'm gonna Uber eats you dinner from the
Hey,
event, and you're gonna
get
eat it.
body. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
It's all
you're gonna.
they care in what way it gets to them.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely sacrifices. Does he have a home cooked meal every night of the week? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But
Hey,
you do
it's
the
it's
best
a
you can.
special treat when it happens in my house. So
Oh yeah. And now he loves Uber Eats. Like he actually prefers to have Uber Eats as opposed to anything that I would cook for him anyway. So Um, okay, so if we're having this conversation, 2 years from now, what are we talking about? Like, what are you working on right now? What are some of the things that are like hot in your mind in terms of your own personal development, or, what are the things that you're working toward?
I will say for me, first and foremost, is I love franchising so much. And I'm a huge fan of Chicken Salad Chick. And it's deeper than me just working for them. In the future, I'd love to have an opportunity to become a franchise partner with Chicken Salad Chick. I don't know if it's going to be in 2 years, maybe a few more years. I don't know. But for me, that would be a great goal to work towards, is to become a franchisee of a brand that I truly believe in and truly care for. And so, we'll see what that looks like on the horizon for Chicken Salad Chick. But in addition, I will say everything that you and I and Caroline in January have laid out for WFN, I really hope that we are able to see this become a larger presence and a bigger group, and maybe IFA be exposed to many people that are going to be attending. I mean, I love everything that we're doing within our chapter, and I'm excited to see what that's going to look like in the future for us.
I totally agree. And if we didn't say it earlier, WFN is Women's Franchise Network, and we'll
Yes,
link
sir.
the I know we talk in like lingo all the time.
Yeah,
We
your acronyms.
we will link the LinkedIn page into the show notes. So if you're interested, if you're in the Dallas area and you're interested in participating, you
Or
can
Fort
go.
Worth. Yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or Fort
Dallas
Worth.
or Fort Worth. Absolutely. We have to remember our Fort Worth friends.
The Fort Worth friends. Shout out Fort Worth. As you are potentially pursuing your own franchise ownership, is there any help that you need, just in case this podcast reaches somebody who is a helper?
Of course, any and all help is always needed. I will always accept, I will say for sure. What I love in this industry is I'm able to work with individuals like yourself, individuals like Erica Garza, even our franchisees at Chicken Salad Chick. Like, I know that if I ever needed a mentor, or I needed somebody to help guide the way, it's a phone call away. So I really think, again, I think this goes back to what we had said earlier in this podcast, is put out a helping hand. I mean, really extend that to somebody who needs it, because you never know when you will need it yourself. But I really feel like I'm not there yet. I love that you put me on the spot. I'm not there yet. I don't know what help I need. I don't know what I don't know at this point. But I think more than anything is just more education, more resources, and maybe starting the conversation with my husband. Maybe I should start there. Make sure
We'll send him this link. We'll send him the link as a passive aggressive prompt. Okay, we are going to end this podcast with something that I need. I need more engagement on this podcast and the YouTube channel. So if you have made it this far and you drop a comment into the YouTube episode, drop a comment, leave a like. We're going to select 2 people in the comments to get Sizzle Society merch and a Chicken Salad Chick gift card. So drop that comment, make sure you're in the running to win one of those things. And all that does is just help my podcast channel grow. And so that's like a little self-serving like help that I need. But to Larissa's point, it's important to ask for things. Ask for what you need, and people will step up and help you. So thank you guys all for helping me today. And thank you, Larissa, for sharing all of your wisdom with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Society Pod.